Abusia, B0mbαία kwaba shronkoso aba number 1 political channel POG Media Řem0val safi ana so aba like no subscribe na afi so etima share dwumadi no ama afoforo so nsa atume aka and please kindly click on the notification bell so ama brand no and political update be the channel ni so bia no onso onsa atume aka na wahwe na afi so asanso ahwe wadwene afa yembonra yensem nim ne mfa ensem do na brewo abusia eye former Chief Justice Torkono, Chief Justice and the John Mahama, Apamona, Minister Stella, on Tiasia, or Pese Obabak, Ebayene Jumano. Abusia, the biggest enemy of judicial hall. Papa, your friend of Justice Pwamang, after Torkono's removal, Aba Kasa, and Sama, Papano Aproguano, and some no ano ed, and just a Torkono Bonoa, Udia, Yejinaso. The second na papa na to ne boase eji ne wanwana hidden secret a ehihye baabi bia no papa no atimi expose ni nyina abusua min waste time kran me person be me yakona akwakutie Justice Pwamang Torkono the biggest enemy ewo judicial ho mama yenko ne yenko nkutie na nansa na ebeko no onya like ejumede na me show so be like share ma uni aso nsa entumi enkabi medamase
arbitrarily reassigning cases between judges, dismissed judicial staff over minor offenses, unreasonably fast-tracked opinion marking and the speaker's case hearing, ordered national security to seize high court computers. And here's what we do know. And in fact, this is not the first time some of these matters have been captured in a petition to a president about the former Chief Justice. And we'll tell you, the committee's work on this particular petition, the former Chief Justice herself personally tested 13 witnesses, approximately 10,000 pages of documentary exhibits were submitted by both sides. This is no mean a process. We do know the second and third petitions are yet to be heard. This is what the details of 147 specifically states. A justice of the Superior Court or a chairman of the regional tribunal shall not be removed from office except for 1, stated misbehavior, or 2, incompetence, or 3, on grounds of inability to perform the functions of his or her office arising from infirmity of body or mind. This is what Justice Gabriel Scott Pwamang, the chair of this 5-member committee, said when he presented the report to the president. Take a look.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. President, in March this year, you received 3 petitions pursuant to Article 146 of the Constitution 1992 for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Asaba Araba Sakitokon, and the public was made aware of these facts. Subsequent processes dictated by the Constitution and the decisions of our Supreme Court were gone through, culminating in the establishment of our committee under Article 146, Clause 6 of the Constitution. The nation was further duly informed, and when we commenced our work on the 15th of May 2025, the Minister of State for Government Communications was briefed and notified the public about it. There has been considerable interest in our work, shown through comments and opinions by Ghanaians and international observers as well. However, the committee restrained itself all along from reacting, even when blatant false statements were made about members of the committee and our work. To the committee, our mandate and remit is set out under Article 146, Clauses 7 and 8 of the Constitution. It's clear, and it is to inquire into the petitions in camera. Here, the person against whom the petitions have been brought in her defense by herself or by her lawyer or other expert of her case, and then make a recommendation to you, Mr. President. As I have said above, 3 petitions were referred to us. And though all 3 petitions seek the same relief, each petition is distinct and would succeed or fail on its individual strengths or weaknesses. Mr. President, without disclosing the substance of the proceedings, And since in-camera proceedings is not the same as in secret, we can state that in respect of the first petition, we received evidence by Mr. Daniel Ofori, the first petitioner, through 13 witnesses. Similarly, the Chief Justice in her defense called 12 witnesses, including expert witnesses, as she is entitled to do under the Constitution. The Chief Justice testified personally and was cross-examined. The committee received about 10,000 pages of documentary evidence from both sides. There were 4 lawyers that represented the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori, and 4 lawyers represented the Chief Justice. Mr. President, after critical and dispassionate examination and assessment of all the evidence, including the expert evidence, against the provisions of the Constitution and the relevant laws, we have, without fear or favor, arrived at a recommendation on the first petition. The recommendation is contained in the envelope which I now give to you.
Well, that's Justice Gabriel Scott Pwamang there, who is the chair of this 5-member committee. Now, joining us as well for this conversation is Kweku Ansa Asari, is a former director of the Ghana School of Law and also the director of Mount Crest University College and one of the foremost training institutions for upcoming lawyers in this country. Thank you so much, Mr. Kweku Ansa Asari, for joining us. Good morning.
Thank you.
It's good to have you there. Now, after this presentation, there's been a number of reactions to it. And gentlemen, if you permit me, the topmost among the many is the statement from the former Chief Justice, who is also a member of the Council of State. Martin Pebu would always say good morning to her, but this morning, the good morning was with some qualification and a caveat to it, that you are not happy with her, but you said good morning to Yasantua.
Yes, well, continue to say good morning. I mean, it's because when a lot of Ghanaians were timid, especially my problem is with Ghanaian men, they couldn't stand up to Akuffo. It took his own relations of Akuffo to come out, speak against him on several occasions. So, I mean, we'll forever, maybe someday we have to give her a national award. I understand the last national awards they were doing, her name was in the list. And then when the list went to Akuffo-Addo's table, when they returned, her name had disappeared. Okay, so Akuffo-Addo apparently wasn't happy.
How did you know this?
Oh yeah, you know things happen in the grapevine. Yes. Oh, you can check. I understand she was called actually. That, oh yes, this. When the list left that place and went to Akuffo-Addo's desk, by the time I returned, her name had disappeared. Okay, so as for what she did, forever we'll be grateful. But it doesn't mean that she's an angel. She can't get it all right. Absolutely. She was Chief Justice. If she was an angel, then I'm sure by now she would have transformed our judiciary to the first world standards. No, she has limitations. Except that if more citizens were like her, you know, we've been crying about getting a critical mass of citizens who are objective, who can stand up and hold government to account without party affiliations. I'm sure we would have made a lot more progress. That's the whole point. That's why I think that we should continue to celebrate her, to get more people to stand up and not do only stomach direction politics.
And I'd like us to hear from her what she said in that exclusive interview with my colleague, Joseph Akablay. She indicated that she's distressed by this decision and that it would have ripple effect on our judiciary. Essentially, her point is that, look, yes, there was some act that could be described as misconduct, but the gravamen of the issue does not match the extent of the penal consequence that has been applied in this instance, meaning the sacking of a Chief Justice, because it doesn't meet that threshold, in her view. This is what she had to say. Take a look at this. we'll call that shortly. But I'll start off with you, Mr. Bento, on this. Just before we hear from the former Chief Justice, just a quick one. The entire process, and Monday when you had this particular announcement from the presidency, how did this strike you? Quick one.
All well-meaning people must approach this matter with a lot of sober reflection. And if you ask me how did it strike me, I wasn't surprised.
You weren't surprised?
Not at all.
Why is that?
Anybody who understands what's going on is not surprised by this. This is what I call railroading. When I say railroading, it means, a railroad leads you from one point to the other. It is the rail that decides where you're going to end. Okay? A year or so ago, when this process started, I put something on my Facebook. It's just a cultural issue. It's from a movie. Somebody who went to kill somebody, and his name is Ěxp0se. And when he met the man, he says, my name is Ěxp0se, prepared to die because you killed my father. The point is, me and you, we don't know each other. Because of what happened the last time, I will take your life. Now, it's a serious thing to take somebody's life. There must be really good reasons for it. Now, the question is it a good reason or not? On one end, you say, yeah, it's a good reason because he said you killed my father. Another end is like, what problem is there between the two of us? Your topic is asking, is it a mere witch hunt or justified course of action? You'll be surprised. Two things can be true at the same time. Okay? And I'm saying sober reflection because we all need to take it from every angle. The reason why we need to take it from every angle is because we have embarked on a race to the bottom as a country. And if we don't stop it, we will break this democracy. Democracies are very fragile. And I'm saying all this before I do the analysis I'm coming to do.
Right.
Very fragile, and on one issue they can break. Okay? On one decision.
All right, Abushia, teachers and some movie and your cocotina chess justice, Pwamang, a tone of boss, a Torkono wedi, who yin one by one Abushia lawyer, Martin Pebu, and so adding semi to us or Rochester processor. Mahama as NDC aban FMU at the Sake Chief Justice and Yadia affect your constitution and I say laws of the state in any way. Na no kwanswa no mudi mame no mame no abuse in the office na nanko say na now the time crana go say almost sake no nanso ake se mame no oye NPP ni ntina na nado danko Akuffo entimi endi juma na NDC aban aba be diama na busua lawyer Martin Pebu nso nsemo de to aso no na ano de no momenko ne nkonkuti lawyer Martin Pebu ne nsema ono nso do to aso
they can break. So somebody can just come up, overtake this country. We've seen all the coups and the examples they give. And then 19 years of military rule. Today in the US, you have 250 years of democracy with all the experiences they've gone through. And one election is threatening everything. Democracies are fragile. They must be preserved and they must be protected. So if you ask me, is it a mere witch hunt or is it a necessary course of action? It is not a mere witch hunt. Why do I say so? That constitutional processes were followed. I don't see a breach of the constitutional process as in the letter of the Constitution how it's written. So I can't say it's a mere witch hunt. But you ask me again, is it a mere witch hunt? Yes, it is.
What do you mean?
I mean so because here you have a situation where somebody had a premeditated outcome, which they stated publicly. We all heard people from the NDC, including the president, say, we don't trust this Chief Justice for ABC, the reasons are a different matter, and that we cannot work with her. I've, paraphrased the things I said. They were public, so we don't need to debate that. My point is this. When you have that kind of premeditated animus against the person, in a democracy like ours, we should be careful not to craft laws that give vehicle to such things. All right? So it's a witch hunt because the person has told you this is what I'm going to do, and then they use the law to execute on that. I worry about that. So, and you come to,
The concern that was raised was about the judiciary at the time in itself. Not specifically about the Chief Justice in herself and her person.
So all of us, like I said, soberly have to look at all the facts. Yes, it was generally the judiciary. but who is the target? Okay, so I'm saying you had a situation where the person who was gunning to become president, who now is president, was leading a group of people who articulated clearly that we did not like what was going on and we are going to come after them. Now, I don't begrudge them. You'll be surprised. I have my own issues against the system and some of the things that I think she should have done that she didn't do. All right? But my worry is on the bigger issue. The bigger issue is if somebody premeditates that they are going to take a certain action, we should be in a situation where that action does not lend itself generally, okay? Or the law does not lend itself for the person to execute that action exactly as they determine. Because you see, essentially law is about limiting, or constitution is about limiting power. So I worry, which is why I've said that we have embarked on a race to the bottom. If this goes on, every president will walk in, clear the Chief Justice, clear the security heads, and bring in their own people. That is not what the Constitution is for. All right? And if you go, you have a situation where, look, the issues that were put up, in my view, were debatable. They were not proven beyond reasonable doubt. And yes, you can say it's not a criminal trial. But when you are dealing with the high office of the Chief Justice of the land, I think you need to get to the point where you can make a case that is so clear that it makes it untenable for the person to remain in office. I personally, and I've said already that the processes were followed, but I personally have a problem with the fact that, for instance, the issues upon which she was removed were audit issues. Okay? Audit issues about per diem and the payment of certain allowances. And clearly there was a misunderstanding within that system of how that should be applied. My point is, when you have a situation like this, one, it's not core to her business. Two, they have an accountant there. They have processes there. And it is important that Justice Akuffo has come up to say the things she said, because I said them earlier. But who am I? She's saying it should have more weight. These things do not rise to the point where they warrant the removal of the Chief Justice of any country. When you do that, you weaken the state. Why do I say that? You have three arms of government. In a democracy, the justices are the supervisors of the realm. In a democracy, the judiciary is the final say in everything. The president can do something, the judiciary will set it aside. The head of the judiciary is the Chief Justice. Parliament can do something. Our parliament is not sovereign. We've gone through that. That was one of the issues here. And the Chief Justice or the judiciary can set it aside. It is the necessary arrangement. So that's a very powerful position. So even in criminal cases, when you have doubt, you give the person accused the benefit of the doubt. When you are dealing with very serious things like the removal of a Chief Justice, I think where there is a doubt, you have to give that benefit of the doubt.
Do you think that there was any point of doubt in this entire process? It wasn't clear, the establishment of a misconduct? You're saying that, yes, there was something that happened that constitutes a form of a misconduct, but it was not grave enough to warrant the removal of a Chief Justice.
You say yourself, a form of a misconduct, something happened that constitutes a form of a misconduct. You have to derive certain things. Something happened. Question, what happened? Was it misconduct? Was it a mistake? Okay? Those questions.
Mistake on the part of who exactly?
Exactly my point. And if you come to the point of, was it a mistake? Whose mistake? Is it the person who gave the per diem or the person who requested it? Because you see, in the judicial system or in any proper system, there will be officers there, accountants, heads of finance and whatever, who know the rules. So if the Chief Justice, for instance, says that, give me $10,000 to go and buy food for my cat, somebody in the system will say, you are not permitted to do so. A, B, C, D, E, and you'll be guided. Okay, so I'm saying this is a judge who has practiced for over 2 decades and her place to become the chief judge of this country. All right, removing that person, whether you like her or not, should not be done lightly. And I'm saying where you have a situation where some other persons clearly will be part of the decision making in the issue of whether she's entitled to a certain per diem, how much of it she's entitled to, who it should go to, where there is no clarity about whether she can travel with wife or husband or child or whatever. These things are what audits are for. Let me finish.
Okay.
And when you commit these infractions in a normal situation, and they happen every day, everywhere, okay, when the auditors come, they flag it. When they flag it, management questions will be asked. Okay? And in most cases, ask the auditors where such infractions are established. Okay? The person who is involved is asked to pay back. My point is, there are many ways of dealing with a thing like this. Okay? So when you say, is it a mere witch hunt? I've said before that they went through the processes. But you ask me, does this rise to the point where you remove a chief justice to the point where she loses all entitlements? We all should reflect soberly on these things. Because what happens today will be a measure of what we do tomorrow. And if we continue this race to the bottom, I told you about B0mbαία.
Yes.
Something happened, and that's why this is happening. I was not happy with, sorry, I'm going on, but let me land properly. With the removal of Charlotte Osei, okay, for many reasons. But not something which people forget. Imani, of which I'm senior vice president, has had a running fight with the EC for about 10 years now. So we had our issues there, okay? But again, you have an issue where that principle, those issues, were not necessarily the reasons why somebody was removed. Today, as we speak, we are at charge, okay? I want that process to be gone through and a proper position established. Then if somebody is going to be removed, fine. But when you have a situation where politicians jump on it and ride, then you make the law an ass. And then the rich ride it, and it tramples the poor. So look, I can go on, but I think the point I'm making is we all should be very sober in dealing with it, because what goes around comes around.
But they talk about the lack of clarity of who she can travel with and so on. I think there's no confusion in that instance, is there? As to who she can travel with.
Alright, Abusia teachers waiting some also our political highway such as say former chief justice Araba Torkono, the biggest enemy our judicial hall, Justice Pwamang eba kasai after the removal and say or 20 boasia bonia maameno edino ojin one by one secret bia and as name of boni oye no kokko mu nyina epi abontia yensu enya bi etie Abusia bidembisia na madam asesambode epenie emiekuti nsema ekoso e political highway ni so aha POG Media. Madam Ase.